All right. This is Hash It Out Volume 2. We did Volume 1 a few days ago. Tia and I were able to sit down with 3 other people, and we've got 3 amazing people for Volume 2 as well. The point of this, at least for me, is to listen, learn, and then figure out how to lead when it comes to race, racism, and reconciliation, justice, all of these things that are always important, have always been important, but it seems like we're in a tipping point, at least in our society now. So we've had a great conversation with our friends Zach, Candace, and Tabitha. And now we're joined with, T and I again, we're joined with Jocelyn, Tay, and Marisol. Before we jump into our discussion here, our very candid, honest, sometimes uncomfortable discussion, which we think is needed, we're going to introduce ourselves real quick. My name is Craig Wilson. I grew up in Garland, Texas. I live in Rowlett now, which is basically Garland. I've been a teacher for a long time, and I'm going to be a principal this upcoming year in Dallas. All during that time, I've been a youth minister and a pastor at a church called Lifewell Church in downtown Garland, which I'm actually at. That's what this brick wall is, because my internet at my house is not good because we have way too many human life with too many devices. So I'm here to get away from that for an hour or two. So that's me. Go ahead, Tia.
I'm Tia. Age? No.
You can do age. It's up to you. Doesn't matter.
I currently, I reside in Rowlett. I'm from Newark, New Jersey. And I am a current teacher. Yeah, I'm a teacher.
Awesome. Jocelyn.
My name is Jocelyn, and I was born, live, raised in Garland, and I do ministry at The Rock, Metro Family Ministries, and yeah.
Awesome. Tay.
Hey, my name's Tay, born in South Oak Cliff. From about 3rd grade until graduation, I lived in Garland until I went to the military for 13 years. Now I work for SpaceX, and hopefully Starlink will help you with your bad internet at home and all your devices.
Oh, man. And we've said this before we started recording, just so everybody knows. Yes, we know how cool it is that he works for SpaceX. Yes, we all want to go and take a tour of the facility. He talked about hooking us up with that. And yes, we could spend the next 3 hours talking about SpaceX, but we're going to avoid that temptation and talk about some other things. But I have a feeling that may be coming in the future. So thank you, Tay, for being here. And then Marisol.
Hi guys, my name is Marisol. I was actually born in Mexico, but I've lived pretty much most of my life here in Garland, where I currently live. I'm a full-time student, and I work a full-time student to become a teacher, and I work as a student minister at Freeman Heights, which is down the street. So that's what I do.
That's awesome. All right, well, we're going to dive right into it. And we've got some questions here, but we're going to let the conversation go wherever it needs to go, because we definitely, we want to dive into this. So any of you guys hear something that somebody else says and you want to expand on that, you jump right in. I'm just pushing us along, but I'm by no means the one that's controlling what we're doing. So the first question for us to jump into is, what is each of yours experience with racism? Each of you would be considered a person of color. So maybe you could start off with that too. What would you prefer to be called? We had an interesting conversation, Tia, didn't we, last time about, the dash that some people use, if it's African American, Hispanic American, or Mexican American, and do we like that dash? Do we prefer black, white, brown, or none of it at all? So maybe include that in. But what has been your personal experience with racism? Let's go ahead and start with Tia again.
Okay, so I have a different kind of background a little bit. My parents are both from Nigeria. So growing up, my household, the culture was like Nigerian, it wasn't so much American, like the food we ate, what we were taught, like what we listened to was a lot of Nigerian. but then I'd go to school and it's American. It was very different. So I think I actually experienced. I have a few experiences with like racial prejudice, and I didn't understand it when I was younger. Like, just quick story. I have family in Canada, and so we went to visit them once, and we were just playing outside like normal, me and my cousins and everyone, and like the next door neighbor just felt unsafe with us being outside. Obviously, my whole family's Black, most families, you see it. And so we got the cops called on us. She called us monkeys, like just like very spiteful things like that. And I remember that. But other than that, though, I will say, interestingly, I've also experienced a little bit of prejudice from like Americans, Black Americans. I came here, I was the African booty scratcher in the class. It's what they called me, to being honest. That's what if you ask a lot of Africans, or Tay, maybe if you've ever heard that before, like, that's what I got called.
Anybody who's seen boys in the hood have seen, I know about the African booty scratcher.
So I got called that a lot, and I also, though, got the, like, just different stereotypes that they put on me because I was Nigerian. My first name isn't Tia. My first name is very long, and it means something in my mom's name.
Hey, lay it on us, Tia. Come on, let's go.
It's Imoitian, which means, oh my gosh. I don't even remember. God's grace, something like that.
Something like that. All right.
But yeah. Oh no, I have faith in God. That's what that means. I have faith in God. And so yeah, so I've experienced racial prejudice in different ways, but I definitely remember growing up in school. I came from New Jersey, which is like a very, very inner city area, where all I saw were people that looked like me, and Hispanics, right? But crime was high. It was one of those where you hear gunshots at night, you'd hear bar fights, you'd hear the police coming at 2 a.m., and that was all I grew up in. So moving here to Rowlett, where I'm in a neighborhood with mostly whites and Asians. I went to a high school that was predominantly white. It's super different, So so I've had to kind of navigate who I am through all of that, and also kind of just protect myself from who people should think I should be, or have the representation of who a Black girl is. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Jocelyn, how have you experienced racism in your life?
For me, it's a little bit more, well, I guess, yeah, in school, but mostly just till I was like in 3rd grade. I went to a specific school, and it was all Spanish. And then in 4th grade, I changed schools, and because I didn't speak English very well, they started the teacher started asking me, well, were you born in Mexico? Did you just get here from Mexico? Things like that. And I felt like I was kind of cheated off my education because I came from a Hispanic family, a Mexican family. They put me in bilingual classes, and it wasn't, the teachers themselves in the specific school I went to barely knew English themselves. It was a different education, I felt like. So it was for sure a hard transition. So that's kind of where I feel it, more in education and stuff like that, where it's like, now I didn't learn, like my ABCs in English. I didn't learn my, all the things you need to learn to write and to speak. I didn't learn in English. I learned in Spanish.
Right.
So a little bit more of that, and people just kind of look down on me and say, oh, you're Mexican. It's like, no, I was born here. I was born in America. I was born, so, and even like now I kind of hold that, where it's like now with my son, they said, they give you a piece of paper when you register them in school, and they say, are you Hispanic or, white, whatever. And I put white, for his, because, you said if they're Hispanic, you automatically have to take a test to see where you are in your language, like to test you. So I just instead of putting Hispanic, I put white, and he was not tested, he was not questioned. You know, it's like now he gets the education that I should have gotten, you know, as a U.S. citizen, you know.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where my experience is.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And I mean, I work in education, and I wasn't aware that it quite worked like that. So that was,
Yeah, and it might not, you know, I know the whole testing and stuff still works like that, but I think education itself with teachers and stuff has gotten better, because I think like I said, the teachers that I had hardly spoke English themselves.
right.
You know, they were uh Brazilians, you know, and they spoke their Spanish, they spoke, you know, they hardly spoke English. So I think maybe that has better, you know, that's better now in education, but for sure I felt like I was cheated in my education, and I don't want that for my son, just because we are a Hispanic family.
Right. Right. No, thank you for sharing. Again, I didn't even know that it would have even occurred like that. So thank you. Tay.
Man, how much time we got? No, no, growing up, man.
As much time as you want, man.
Exactly.
Um, y'all just let y'all know I don't bite my tongue. I just say what I say.
That's
Um,
fine.
growing up, I've been called a nigga all my life. You know, just what it is from the time I can remember being a kid. I didn't even know what the hell it meant, but I seen white people call me that. It is crazy. I remember even when I went to Garland High School my freshman year, I was in the IB program. Now, if y'all are familiar with the IB program, it's super, super advanced academically, and most of my classmates were white. And then when I got like top grades in class, it was like, well, damn. It's like they look at me like I was supposed to be stupid.
Right.
You know, I'm like, y'all just don't know me. I mean, it's just crazy how everybody just look at me and assume that that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And then when I went to the Army, I remember when I looked over my MEPS paperwork while I was in basic training under the ethnicity, it had an N. I'm like, what the hell is this? You know? But until recently, that's what it was in the Army was, you know, you got to put Negro. You know, that kind of goes back to the question was asking earlier, what do we prefer to be called? Like, you know, I don't care to be called African American because I'm not from Africa, you know? And I get it, that's where our ancestors were from, but I'm not from Africa. That was robbed from me. I'm a Black American, so I prefer to be called Black. Some people may do, some people may not. Who knows? Um, Sometimes in the military, I've seen, you know, swastikas everywhere. I've seen the white soldiers say certain things, and then the thing that bothers me, and tell me if y'all, Marisol and everybody else, when somebody comes and talks to you that realize that you're a specific ethnic background, you're trying to talk like you.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yes. I get the girl. I get the
hey, I'm like, yo, just talk how you talk. Like even now with SpaceX, we have company parties and for like Christmas and everything. Me and my wife come in, they want to start playing back that ass up. I like Copperhead Road too. Just play country. You don't have to, you know, give me my fix of the music. I like everything, but you know, that's kind of left field. It's kind of funny. But at the end of the day, it's like I remember one of the run-ins with the police, and I didn't tell Craig about this whole story. I was living in Louisiana because I was working offshore. Um, New territory for me. You know, this is right before I started working at SpaceX, and I was actually dating this girl, and you know, we went out, had a good time, took her home. Her neighborhood wasn't in the best of places, understandably. Matter of fact, I believe her house is right next to a crack house. I didn't know that. I'm not from there. But we didn't want to go in the house because her daughter was in there, respectfully. I'm like, okay, we'll just sit down in the car and talk. You know, I had a Cadillac. I had speakers in there because I like loud music. But, you know, I didn't have it too loud. But anybody knows how the things work. There's an amplifier on there. Well, me being, you know, smart, but had a stupid moment, I turned my ignition off and let the speakers go in. So the amplifier pretty much drained battery.
Yeah.
So she goes in the house. I try to start my car to go home. I can't do it. She doesn't have a car, and it's like a ghost town in the neighborhood. Like you can't even really see anything in the street lights. I mean, I think most of them are even out. So I get out my car and I start walking to the nearest place. I have jumper cables. I just need somebody to give me a jump. I see a gas station on the way. I'm waving to everybody I see. Nobody stops. I wave at a cop. Nobody stops. I mean, the one person stopped was a black lady, and she, I told her I needed help. She says, I'm on my way to get my daughter. I'm running late, but if you're still here, I'll help you when I get back. I say, cool. I walk all the way to the store. Nobody's there. Okay, so I start walking back to my car. It's a little chilly out here, by the way. It's like kind of, I want to say late February time frame, maybe. And so, in the South, it's cold, but it ain't that cold to where I got to have a bear suit. So walking back, I'm waving more cars again. Even another cop. He just drove past me like I wasn't there. I saw a couple ahead of me, a white couple. They can't help me. They walking themselves. So I get all the way back to my car, try to start it, and nothing happened. So I said, okay. I see a cop pull up. So okay, well maybe give me some help. Finally, and he turned on his lights. I get out of my car. Immediately, it's stop. Get your hands above your head. Turn around. Put your hands on the car. I said, oh shit, what did I do? So he go to cuff me. They threw me on the ground. He had a gun to me. I swear, it must have been like, this SWAT must have been ninjas. Because I turned around and it was like 30 cops on me.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, what in the hell did I just do? And the girl coming out the house, no, he was with me. His car's dead, yada, yada, yada. Now, mind you, it wasn't in February, because it was around Veterans Day, actually. So it was, they took all my belongings out of my pocket and everything. And this one cop get out the car. He says, what you flagging me down for, bro? I'm like, well, I'm not your bro right now. Second of all, what are you talking about? He said, I was in an unmarked car and you flagged me down. I was like, I waited fucking everybody. What are you talking about? I said, I probably waited some of these cops that are around here that just kept going. So apparently they were part of an undercover narcotics unit and they thought I was looking for drugs. So I looked at them, I was like, so let me ask y'all a question. You're undercover. You just blew your damn cover. Why did you try to offer me a sale? Had I taken the sale, you'd have had a righteous bust.
Right.
But instead, you assumed that I was looking for drugs. So now you got 30 of y'all with guns on me, dogs barking in my face, and I'm on the ground with tasers and whatnot. For what? And he said, and this verbatim what he says, well, you got to understand, you're walking around here, it was dark, you got a hoodie on. I said, I ain't that a bitch. I got a hoodie on and it's dark. I said, look, I don't have a coat. I'm from Texas. You don't get that cold like that. And at the end of the day, this is why we say y'all asses need more training. But because I'm black, I'm walking around here and I waved at you. I said, there's a white couple in front of me. Did they not look suspicious? Or maybe they didn't wave at you. Maybe because I waved at you. I don't know. But, that was the most memorable thing as of lately. I guess there's been other things here and there, but I can be talking all day. And,
Well, no, I mean, I'm appreciative of sharing that, and you're welcome to share anything that you want. Well, yeah, there's some other things, but we'll get to that here in a little bit. Marisol.
Well, let's see. I haven't really experienced much because even though I am Mexican, I am very light skinned, and I even look Asian. So that's that. But I do remember when I was younger, my first experience was students in elementary school calling me wetbag, and in my innocence, I had no idea what that was, so I came home and I asked, and that's when it was explained to me what that meant. Because I spoke Spanish and I was from Mexico, that automatically made me a wetback. And from there on, I think I spent a lot of my childhood hiding the fact that I was Mexican just because of those comments. But let's see, I am very light skinned, and I don't turn dark, I turn red. So I haven't really experienced much and all the cops that I meet, all the people that I meet, they're very kind to me. And I used to like to think that it was because I was kind to them. You know, I always spoke to people with respect. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. So there's that. But people have been, have spoken harsh words against Mexicans in front of me, not knowing that I was Mexican, you know,
Right.
and so that's been hurtful. And all I do is just listen and just ignore them, because a lot of times when you try to, explain or try to correct them, even if it's nicely, they don't really listen. So, or once they find out that you are Mexican, you know, and you don't fit their bill, then it's like, well, you're the exception, you know. Oh, so you're an honor student, you're the exception, you know. So you're a Christian, oh, so that's why you're an exception, you know. You were raised in a white church, you're an exception, you know. So they don't really like to hear that, like, people aren't like that, you know. People of color, people from different backgrounds don't fit that background. That stereotype that you put on them, they just like to say that you are the exception to that stereotype. But with that being said, I do go to a white church, predominantly white church, that's very multicultural. And from the very beginning, my parents speak very little English. They've opened their hearts and their arms to me, and never once did they judge, you know, what our background was, what our language was, you know. So I mean, I don't know. So that's my experience. I don't have much, but those are just.
No, but you still bring up some interesting things. Tay answered this, but as far as you, Marisol, born in Mexico, live in the United States, and by the way, it's not that I actually care one way or the other, but I do seem that some people get hung up on terms. So that's kind of why I wanted to set the stage with your personal experiences, but also that second question. And how do you want to be referred to, Marisol? Do you want to be referred to as just simply an American, Mexican because you were originally born there? What do you feel about that?
I'll be honest, I don't really think about it. I am Mexican, but people don't really question it, you know.
Sure.
I think it's because of the color of the skin, and sometimes people even question that I'm Mexican, you know. I've had many Asian people come in and just start talking to me in a different language, and I'm like, I don't understand. And so it's not a question that I get asked a lot, and it's not something that really bothers me.
Sure.
So, but I am Mexican by name.
What about for Jocelyn? What about for you?
For me, you know, my parents are from Mexico, but I feel like if anything, Hispanic, you know, I feel like now that I do have a child, you know, for him, you know, I guess, I mean, Hispanic would be a good term for him, but I feel like at the end of the day, I feel like, you know, I kind of want him to be like almost like known as white, you know. Since both of his parents were born here in the U.S., he was born here in the U.S. It's like, you know, it's like if it comes up to privilege or more respected, then he's white, you know.
That's almost very telling that you would want that distinction, because you feel like he would be treated differently if he was known as a white kid as opposed to a Hispanic or Mexican American kid.
Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, he is Hispanic, you know, and that wouldn't be wrong, you know. And I feel like it would almost be wrong to say he's white and not Hispanic, you know, because he is Hispanic. But at the end of the day, you know, maybe in papers, I don't know, you know, maybe just like in paper or something, he's white, you know, check mark that white, you know. But I mean, I'm Hispanic. I guess I prefer being called Hispanic. He's Hispanic, you know. But you know,
hey, I can tell that you want to say something here, man.
Well, like what she was saying as far as, you know, wanted to be white, and you said that it's shocking that understand something that's like a thing, man. Like even among people of color, and Tia can probably attest to this. Well, I know she can. Even among the black community, colorism is a thing.
Absolutely.
If you're light skinned, you were more socially accepted.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're going here because
So
that was actually my next question. So please,
right.
yeah, go ahead.
So it's like we have this thing between like growing up. Like my sister is probably Marisol's color. Same mom, same dad. She's just very bright skinned. She got picked on a lot at school because she was bright skinned.
Right.
Everybody was jealous of her, so they figured she thought she was better than everybody. But a lot of people in society would have looked at her like, hey, she's more the ideal of how we want a black person to look. And even nowadays, a lot of black men and black women get into it with each other over things like, are you going to have blonde hair, blue eyes, you're trying to look European? Because according to the magazines, they say this is how you're supposed to look. This is what beauty is. You can't just look at a natural black woman a lot of times and see a thing of beauty in the media. They have to fit a certain persona, a Barbie doll look, just to be accepted. And that's something that we deal with. Growing up, I used to say, I'm not going to go swimming out in the pool unless it's an indoor pool because I don't want to get black as hell.
Yep.
Now I'm like, shit, hell, I don't care. I get dark as hell right now, and it's beautiful, But that's embedded into us that the darker we are, the uglier we are, And I'm not sure that that goes with the Hispanic community, but same ways they have some things that associate them since they look close enough to a fair skin. If they say that they associated with this, so that they have a better chance, and we can't hide from that, so we try to fit in the way we can, and it sucks.
Right.
Yeah.
And
that's all. I'm listening.
No, go
I
ahead.
might see a little darkness here. I gotta go get my charger out the car.
yeah,
No,
and
I'm listening though.
That's fine.
yeah,
Go
and that's the thing with my son. He, if you see him, you can tell he's Hispanic. When he asked me, one day he came home from school and said, "Mom, some kid said I wasn't white." I said, "Honey, I'm sorry, you're not." I said, "You're Hispanic." If anybody sees you from a mile away, they can tell you're Hispanic. You're Hispanic. And he was kind of confused about that. But I said, you are Hispanic, because, I kind of explained to him why, all those things. And that's the thing that at the end of the day, he doesn't look white. He doesn't have, that light skin. He's probably darker than me, maybe because he's been out in the sun or whatever, but, he's darker than I am, and he tans, his skin gets tanned and not red, so yes, I mean, he looks Hispanic, so that's why I say it would be like it would be more wrong for me to tell him, hey, believe and think and know that you're white, instead of saying, yeah, you are Hispanic, because he doesn't look white. He looks more Hispanic because he has a darker skin.
Right. Tia, it sounded like you wanted to maybe chime in there as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's kind of the same thing with Tay and Josie's point, that I mean, frankly, it took me a long time to actually really appreciate my skin color, because just like I said, what I saw growing up, I was told, like, that's not who you want to be. Like, you don't want to be out in the streets. You don't want to be running with the wrong crowds. And a lot of those people look like me. And then coming to going to a predominantly like white high school, I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me. And so, but I did see a lot of people like that were white, I felt get more accepted than me, And when you look at the media, when you look at magazines, like the fairer skinned women, they get the pretty, they get the, all of that things. And so I think for me, it was really hard. It was just a really hard journey for me to accept my skin color, and to see the beauty of how God created, like God made me, Yeah, and also to not have the same biases against those who are darker skin or those who are lighter skin, So, yeah.
You say it's also beyond skin tone. It's also sort of facial characteristics or body
Absolutely.
characteristics.
Absolutely. I think that, and this is just my opinion, that if you look at like fashion industry, you know, we're kind of going a little bit off, but
No, but it's good. It's important. Please.
if we look at a fashion industry, we can see that there are trends that when I was younger, I specifically got like teased very, very extremely about the size of my lips and like body curves, right?
Sure.
2020.
Me too. Minus the body curves.
Body curves. Right? 2020, lip injections are it.
Thing.
They're a thing. They are, it's but in like what is considered beautiful in media. Everybody gets lip injections. Everybody gets the, you know, they want their body to look a certain type of way. And I absolutely do think that it's skin color. It's also, just like you said, facial features. And we really, it's, I don't know, it's just so, it's so disheartening because it only divides us more. And it only, for a person who sees that over and over again, makes you feel like, oh, I'm not good enough, you know?
Sure.
Even though I, yeah, so sorry.
Well, no, this is, but how do we combat that? Because to me, this sounds like something that anybody can face at any point in their life, but especially if they're younger and if they're at a store and they see magazine covers, or if they happen to watch some show or something online and they see a description of beauty, or they see a certain type of person always being called beautiful. So how can we be proactive now and recognize, you know, beauty doesn't fit into a shape or box or skin tone or size of lips or whatever the feature may be? How do we do that?
I mean, that's something that really we got to teach our kids.
That's
To
what I was
be honest.
Yep.
I mean, because at the end of the day, you can't change what the rest of the world says, what media's put out, and you know what's perceived as this, that, and the third. You know, like right now, I have 3 daughters and a son. My wife has 3 daughters, so between us, we have 7 of us. We're like the Black Brady Bunch over here, you know. And we literally call ourselves that. But all my wife's kids are mixed, black and white, you know. So there's times when, you know, people might look at them like, oh, she's so pretty, when they're, you know, seeing pictures, but don't comment on the other kids.
Right.
And it's like, no, look, they're all pretty, they're all beautiful, you know. And we just got to teach all our kids that, you know, no matter what anybody else thinks, is how you think of yourself, and they got to teach them self-esteem, no matter what anybody else thinks of them. Because on the flip side, I have to look at my wife's daughters and say, hey, man, people want to look at you because of the way you look, and try to make you feel like you think you're too good. And it's not that. And I also have to do things like explain to them about what's going on in the world, history, issues, and they have white parents, you know. And so I can't bite my tongue, but I have to approach it a different way. But at the end of the day, when it comes to inner beauty and everything, you know, there's nothing that you and I can do to fix that around the world.
Sure.
You can just start with your household.
Yeah, I think it definitely starts in your own household. And I think, like Tay said, talking to kids, but also what do you say about yourself when your kids are around? You know what I mean? Because honestly, like, and Tay, I'm sure your wife, like, I'm sure if she talked about herself in such a way that she appreciates how God made her, imagine your daughters, you know, and what they see, like knowing that, hey, my mom can tell me this, but I've also heard her say it about herself, say it about other women, say it about other people, you know. And so I think that is really, really important. Yeah.
Do you, go ahead, please.
I was just gonna say, I don't have kids, you know, but I do have youth, and I like to let them know that they're beautiful all the time, you know, because I work mostly with the youth girls, and there's that. But also something that Tia taught me was that commenting not just on their beauty and all that stuff, but also on their characteristics.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think that's huge, and realizing that beauty is not just outer, you know, it's right. How you act, what, like, yep, your compassion, you know, all those kind of things. And that's something that I had to learn, where she taught me that it's not just you don't just tell them that they're beautiful to find out that they're beautiful. You have to tell them that they're beautiful and all these other things to realize the true meaning of beauty. So that's something else.
No, absolutely. Thank you very much, because that's something that I didn't think we would necessarily go into like that, but I think it's really important. And it breaks my heart to think about little kids thinking that they don't look a beautiful or handsome because they're not told that or they don't see that in the world. So that's I'm already thinking about how I talk to my daughter and my sons, and how I can also help broaden their horizon to say that, okay, they're beautiful. That, listen, my kids they've heard they're beautiful all the time. That's not what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
But I want them to know that, there's people that are very beautiful that don't look like them. And to recognize that beauty, I think is really important. Well, to switch gears just a little bit, T and I have already said this in the previous video, so we won't comment on it now. But what really sparked this, and it's both a good and a sad thing, that the murder of a man, George Floyd, sparked this. And the reason I say it's a sad thing is not only that it's a tragic death, but that there's been so many others, and learning that there's many others. But for some reason, this has been a tipping point, and there's a lot of discussion about that, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But what I would like to know is, for Jocelyn, Tay, and Marisol, what was your initial reaction? I don't know if you saw the video or when you heard about this, what was your initial reaction to the murder of George Floyd? Jocelyn, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, for me, it's just, as a wife of a police officer, it's just the worst thing to see, where that's not what police officers should be doing, by no means, for any reason, they're not, especially like with the word, of God, it's like they're not judges, like who dies and who lives, just like, but very disturbing, very sad. I understand and see why that is a tipping point.
Yeah.
Thank you. And I'm very appreciative, Jocelyn, that you're on here for many reasons, but one of them is because you do offer that angle, because when you saw it, one of the first things is that you recognize of how evil and wicked it is, and your husband is a police officer. And one thing that I'm sure there's people in the world that are gross and disgusting and don't see any wrong with that. I'm sure those people are out there. But I think one of the reasons it was a tipping point is because for most people, it was so obviously wrong. It was so obviously wicked. It was just, you were sitting there for such a long period of time. And that's the other part of it, is that we've seen shootings before, and that's wrong. It's not a better or worse, but just the time period. Just the time period. Tia, we had to, in the protest that Tia and I were about, it ended with us kneeling for the period of time that officer had his knee on George Floyd's neck. It was a long time. And my 9-year-old daughter was like, we're down here a long time. And I had to look at her and say, baby, the reason we're down on a knee this long is because this is how long that officer was on that man's neck. And that was you could see my daughter's 9-year-old brain was comprehending, like, she already knew it was evil.
Wow.
But then it was even more so. But all that to say, for you, Jocelyn, to see that officer, your husband's a police officer, so to see automatically, like, that's not what they're trained to do. And for those of you, we had the privilege of listening before to a police officer before our recording started, and talking about how he knew immediately how wrong that was and how that's not how he was trained. So thank you, Jocelyn, very much for sharing that and for allowing us to talk to that police officer earlier.
Yeah.
Tay, your initial reactions.
Man, you might want to let Marisol go first.
That's fine. Marisol, go ahead, please.
Okay, well, like I said, I don't have kids, but I do work at a church, and we've had a lot of kids who come from homes that do not have Jesus, and so I don't want you guys to have the picture of like church kids, perfect kids, good kids, because that's not the case. We've had a lot of
Right.
kids.
Well, and actually, Marisol, because it's hard to toot our own horn, so let me jump in here real quick and just tell the audience that Marisol has spent a lot of her life working with kids from all different colored kids from very difficult situations. And anybody that knows Garland knows that Garland is a very, very diverse community. At one time, there was a study, it was one of the top 10 most integrated cities in the United States. So she's absolutely right. She's worked with kids from all different ages, boys, girls, different ethnic backgrounds, and some of them from very, very rough situations. Go ahead, Marisol.
And so I've grown to love all of those kids so much. And their choices, aren't always the greatest. But when I saw that video, I thought it was very unfair.
Yeah.
How, regardless of George Floyd's actions, that was the consequence, because I know there's consequences, but just because of the color of his skin, he was treated that way. And I can't help but think of all my students, of my kids who may do something that's not right, but that should not be how they're treated, I know there's consequences, but somebody who is lighter skin, who is white, would not have been treated that way. And that's what breaks my heart. And that's where the injustice is at. And I just, we need to speak out for those kids, who, for those kids, for those people, for everybody who don't fit, the perfect light-skinned, no matter what you do, you're okay,
Right.
So that's what I thought, and it broke my heart. Those were 9 minutes where people tried, but the officers just weren't, and that I just don't understand.
Well, I think it's just knowing your heart, Marisol. It's wicked. It's wickedness. It's evil.
And now my kids hurt. They're hurting, and I know I don't truly understand because I am lighter skinned. But I am trying to. My reaction has been trying to learn more. On how I can help. And listening. And being in things like this where I can hear different points of views, so that I can be a better leader, so that I can be a better example for them. And so this is why I'm here, for them.
Yes. Thank you, Marisol, very much.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tay.
All right, here we go. What's going on? It's the wife. So initially, obviously there was anger. Then there was a level of combatants, followed by a level of being passive. Angry because of what the hell happened.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, it's some bullshit. Like, why didn't anybody do anything? Then I was passive because I was like, I'm used to this shit. See it all the time. It's not new to me. Here's another one. But then I'm combative because I'm like, here we go. Once again, this happened. Once again, it's on tape. Now I know I can't be silent. I'm about to get hit with a bunch of rebuttals like, well, what happened in the middle of the video? Who gives a shit what happened in the middle of the video? Or what from the moment that he was leaning against the building to where he was on the ground? It doesn't matter. But that's what I met with every single time. But we don't know what led up to that. I don't care what led up to that. You know what I'm saying? That's why we say Black Lives Matters. Look, I might do things sometimes that require the police to mess with me, But if I give myself up, then damn, just do your job. Don't do the most.
Yeah.
And it's always that level of, well, we don't know this, and he should have just done this. Don't tell me what I should have done. You know, because even when I do what I'm supposed to do, you still mess with me. We still see people get killed. So don't. It was just so many emotions that I knew were happening, but then I got a level of joy because of the fact that, not because of the video, but that the world is speaking out. The world, you know, and I'm like, I got angry again because how is it the fucking world? I told you I don't bite my tongue, y'all. How is it that the fucking world can see this, but our own Americans can't? I mean, we got France, we got Germany, we got Australia, we got South America, Iran, and we can't see this shit in America. And it happens every time, you know? And then I started to think, well, we see this all the time. Why is it that this one is such a big deal? Why now is everybody, you know, on board? Why not Sean Bell? Why not Trayvon Martin? Why not Tamir Rice? Why not Emmett Till? Why not Breonna Taylor? Why not hundreds of the others? In the meantime, you know, that this has happened. Like, why now? Don't get me wrong, I'm glad it is happening, but it's like, what now? Is it because, you know, of COVID-19 and people are bored? Are y'all sincere? Is this actually going to do something, or do y'all need something to do to get out the house? I don't know. I have a lot of mixed emotions about why the world is actually speaking out, you know, but at the same time, a lot of things are changing about it. Then, of course, with all the protests and everything, I've made comments like, look, man, I don't agree with some of this shit, but I get it. But who are other people to tell us how we should act? We're tired of acting the right way. We've been acting the right way since we've been here. It's never enough. So I have I've lost a lot of friends. Honestly, from the moment 45, actually from the moment 44 got in office, but even more when 45 got in office. I've lost a lot of friends when Kaepernick took a knee. I lost a lot of friends when Black Lives Matter started getting chanted. And they're all people that look like you, Craig. Not us, the people that look like you. And the reason why is because they don't get it. I don't think they want to get it. I don't think they try to get it. And I tell people all the time, say, look, man, it's crazy. I went to war with y'all. I fought with y'all. I saw some fucked up shit with y'all. I've helped some of y'all go through times of, you know, PTSD and everything. Y'all been in my house. Y'all met my kids. I know y'all. So how is it that everybody that I served with, 13 years in the Army, 3 wars, and I can come back and I don't know who the hell you are when it comes to race? You know, we all together chilling and whatnot, and you know, you think it's cool every now and then to say my nigga this, my nigga that, but when it's time for you to be my nigga, you don't want to be. When I need you to help me out, you don't want to be. You know, it's all of this shit is frustrating, and I hope that something actually does change. But I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't think it's gonna change enough. And maybe that's me being, you know, pessimistic because that's what I know in this world as far as when it comes to people of color. You know what I'm saying? Predominantly with Black people because, you know, that's me. You know, I can't speak on Marisol. I can't speak on Jocelyn and everything. And I can't speak on Hawaiians. I can't speak on Native Americans. But at the end of the day, and I hate to say it like this, but it's kind of the truth. And don't take this wrong way. When it comes to all of our oppression, there's a common enemy, and it's the white European influence. You know, and every time something happens, it's just crazy how there's a lot of people who want to make a difference, and I can't. That's why I don't treat any white person a certain way or anything. But it's just baffles me how many there are in this country that are just so fucking conservative in their ways, not to politics, but in their ways that they rather argue me than understand what the fuck I'm feeling. But when I had the idea to tell me or the audacity to tell me what I should do. So I'm at the mindset right now that, okay, if they was to come over here and put me in quarantine and I'm sitting in my house chilling and some cops running by here and start firing at me with a rubber bullet, I'm firing at you with a real one. I'm in my house. Don't fuck with me. I'm in my place. I'm not bothering you. I'm not on shit. I'm not doing this. I told Craig before, if I'm out driving on the street and there's a cop comes behind me I shouldn't have to straight up and pretend like I'm driving right. I should just be able to give you a head nod and go about my business. But if a cop gets behind me, I take a right turn. Even if I don't have to, I can be going left. I take a right turn. Because if that cop takes a right turn with me, I need to start recording. Because I'm not going to let that cop tell him my death. It happens so much. It would have happened to Floyd had somebody not recorded. And it happens to so many others. And it's like, when does this shit change? So, I don't know,
Hey,
man.
Tay, I want to follow up with some questions if you're okay with that.
Oh, no doubt. Shoot.
But first I want to say, and this is probably going to sound, I don't care how it sounds.
Just say what you say.
It sounds like you lost some friends, but I want to say, I think pretty confidently you've gained 4 here tonight. So, well, 3, I was already considered you a friend before. So, I know we don't understand each other exactly. And I know as soon as we talk about politics, you and I have a lot of disagreements.
Ooh, man, you know, I got some posts lately, but go ahead, continue.
But I just want to say that, well, there's a couple of things. One, when you talked about losing friends, was it white men that you had served with that have chosen not to be your friend, or did they say things that upset you and so you stopped being their friend, or both?
Mainly both. I'm not gonna lie, it was both.
Okay.
When I say I've lost friends, you know, it's because we started arguing and they say things. It's like, I can't believe you fucking feel like that. Yeah, I can't, you know, and it's like straight offensive.
Sure.
You know, I'm like, yeah, I can't rock with you. You got to go. I've had friends befriend me because, you know, Trump is president. It was shit. I mean, I don't like Trump. You like Trump, so what? I mean, so now we're not friends anymore because I'm speaking out on a lot of the things that he do. I don't agree with this shit. I'm sorry, but I don't. You know, and if you want to agree with it, you don't see anything good. I mean, bad. And it's like, well, damn. But they befriend me because of that. When it comes to arguing about Kaepernick taking a knee, I'm like, look, man, Drew Brees, people like y'all, who the hell are y'all to tell me what I'm offended by? I'm a veteran. That shit don't offend me. Anybody don't know, I'm a singer. And me and Zach grew up together in a church choir, you know, in Garland. Interesting story behind that too. But anyway, I started to do a video, singing the national anthem. I've sung it at Lakers game. I've sung it at Nuggets games many times. Once I was supposed to sing it at the Super Bowl, but that's another story. But either way, I started to do a video singing the national anthem, full uniform and everything. And then slowly taking off my uniform, displaying the Black Lives Matter shirt, taking a knee. So everybody know that, hey, I'm a soldier, I'm a veteran, and this is what the fuck I stand for. You know? And it annoyed me that a lot of my people that were in the military with me would get so mad at disrespecting the flag and the national and the anthem and all that. I'm like, well, that's crazy because every day there's a thing called reveille and retreat. In the beginning of the day, reveille would sound, the flag would raise, you stand at attention, you salute. End of the day, retreat, same thing. Midnight taps would happen, it's a moment of silence. But I remember every day we used to chill in the barracks or, you know, somewhere on post, whether we playing ball or whatever we're doing, and retreat a sound, and all these cats want to run inside the damn building because they don't want to salute the flag. But now you're fucking respected when it comes time to deal with black issues and social injustice. Now you want respect, but you didn't respect it when I was there with you every day. So how dare you get mad at me for agreeing with this for something that had nothing to do with the damn flag or do with the soldiers or, you know, with us. So yeah, I lost a lot of friends behind that for sure.
Yeah. As far as the difference here, because you said you may be a little skeptical, maybe even pessimistic about, is this going to be something that really brings about change, or is it just, in our last video, Candace and Zach and Tia, we were talked about, is it a movement or a moment? Yeah. And I do think there are a lot of factors. I think COVID-19 is a huge factor.
Yeah.
I think people have a lot of pent up frustration and energy. I think that's part of it. But I think one of the reasons, and not to harp on it, but I do think the video and the length of time that the man suffered, and it was so obvious that he suffered, I mean, Marisol, it sounded like, I mean, I know you've probably seen other things before, but this seems to have had quite an impact on you, more so than maybe something else. Is that correct? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Well, no, they've all had, but this is one that was spoken about the most, and especially I try to do some more reading about it, and that's when it shed light to a lot of other people, and that had experienced something like that, kids who had experienced that and who were not doing anything wrong and were killed, and because they were treated unfairly just because of the color of their skin, they weren't given the chance, and that's and that's what broke my heart too. And I pictured, a lot of Black friends say, I see my mom or my dad or like my brother, and I see my kids whenever I see or read articles or watch videos, and that's what I see, so that's why it affected me so much. And I'm just, yeah. I'm
I,
sorry.
I just wish I wish more people had that mindset, because I've had one of the happiest moments in my life and one of the scariest moments in my life, and they were both when my son was born. I was happy because, hey, I finally got a boy. I got 6 girls. I finally got a boy. But then I was scared because, damn, I got to raise a black man. You understand how that fucking feels? Scared because I got to raise a black man. I just want you to think about that.
I don't understand it. That's the problem. I don't. I can't. I don't understand that.
I've had people tell me, like, I've told you this before, Craig. I have a guy that I work with, and older guy, about 50s, pushing on 60s, and he should be a full-blown racist. I showed him some things and talked to him about some things to the point where he started crying because he didn't know, he didn't get it. And I can't fault people to an extent, because that's how they were raised. This is embedded in them, just like certain things are embedded in us. This is what he knew growing up. So
Right.
now I start shedding light on things with him, like the Black Wall Street, and how people like to bring up Chicago. But Chicago was a very prominent neighborhood. Philadelphia was prominent. Tulsa, Oklahoma was prominent. Rosewood, those are all prominent neighborhoods that did the right thing. They got destroyed for what? So when you take stuff away from them, especially after being redlined, it's hard for people to get out of that mindset, because it becomes embedded in your DNA. So you pass it on to your kids and your kids and your kids. And now we have people in our neighborhoods that's acting the way that it's not a representation of all Black people, when we all get treated about it the same way. But end of the day, I showed this guy some things, and the way that he looked it was fucking incredible how, his heart just sunk. He said, Tay, I'm sorry that, first of all, he asked me, why do I have to teach my kids to be combative? I'm like, I'm not teaching them just to be straight up combative. I'm teaching them to be aware, teaching them to be ready. Because, exactly, because some of my kids are light skinned, so they might have a little easier, maybe they will, maybe they won't, but then they won't be accepted by their peers. Some of them are darker skinned, and they have a certain name like Tanaya, people might just read her name and not, I want to hire her. She's a good ghetto bougie queen. Her name is Tanaya. What the fuck? That's not her fault. I named her that because it's after my aunt, But at the end of the day, he looked at me, he says, I'm saying that you have to teach your kids to be that way. And I'm saying that you have to teach your kids, how to talk to and act around police. I looked at him, I said, thanks, but I'm sad that you don't. It just shows how much of the difference. That's a testament to privilege, you know. And I know a lot of people believe like white privilege don't exist. This, that, and the third. It does. I'm sorry if you don't believe that it does. It does. And
Tay,
it
how would
doesn't
you?
always, it doesn't always mean riches. It doesn't always mean it, but it's a certain level of things that y'all don't have to worry about because of how you look. I know that white people, are poor or live in a trailer park or whatever else, and they might get treated a certain way. But it ain't because they're white. It's because they're poor. That's a testament to classism, and I get that. But me, if me and you, Craig, grew up in the same neighborhood and we both got treated the same, whether it's by people or peers, it's more than likely with your association and me that you're being treated that way. But if we both get up and put on a three-piece suit and go to Beverly Hills, they're gonna look at you a lot different than they look at me. It's just my reality. And it might not be yours. You might not even agree or see that. But that's how I see it and that's how I feel. And the fact that I even feel like that is messed up.
Well, and I think that's Tay, just is my first big lesson in this. And there's so much I want to say, but this isn't about me. But the first big lesson I've had in this, and I've communicated with Tia, is that I can be correct about facts, figures, stats, and be wrong about experiences. So even if what you just said, and I'm not saying this is the case, but let's just say it is. Let's say I don't see it that way. That's kind of not the point. The point is that you, my friend, do see it that way, do feel that way, which means no matter how, whatever fact, figure, box that I have, if you fit or don't fit it, it doesn't matter. It's real and it matters to you. So therefore, as my friend, it should be real and matter to me.
Yeah.
That's my first big lesson. And I'm still struggling with the term white privilege. I told in the last meeting we had, and if Jocelyn or Marisol or anybody else, I mean, you're welcome. I don't deny that people of color have disadvantages that I don't understand, that I have not experienced. And to me, that's racism. And if people want to say, well, what they're experiencing is racism, what you're experiencing is white privilege, and that's okay. The reason why I didn't flesh this out very well, probably in our first discussion, is that some of these terms I feel like are used to shut people up. And so my experience has been that sometimes when we throw around these words like privilege or white privilege, it's not a recognition of privilege. It's just to shut somebody down. And I'm not saying that's what you said. I'm not saying that at all. And I'm coming around to the concept of, okay, well, privilege can forget about the term, Craig, just understand the reality of the situation. And so that's kind of where I'm getting at. And that's my first big lesson in all of this is you're my friend, and other people who are even my friends, my fellow Americans, forget the dash. My fellow Americans are experiencing something, and so it's real to them, which means it's important. So I'm trying to get my head around that and what that means moving forward. So I do see that, even if I don't understand it completely. I do see that, and I appreciate it, because I've also heard Tay and maybe Tia, Jocelyn, Marisol, that these conversations can be exhausting. You know, I've heard some of my friends who are of color say, you know, we're tired of talking about this, but I appreciate you being willing to talk about it, because some of us, maybe we're just now hearing it for the first time or just now understanding a little bit more. And so even though the conversation is very tiring and it may be something that the rest of us haven't experienced, the fact that you're willing to give us insight is valuable. So thank you. And I hope you're willing to continue having that conversation, even though it is tiring and it does take a long time.
I'm always willing to talk until I feel like I'm talking to a brick wall, you know?
Well, I won't take that personally here, Tay.
You got a brick wall behind him. What you trying to say?
Yeah, what you trying to say, man? I won't take that. But
shots fired.
Yeah, just to transition us, because even though I actually do feel like we could stay there for a little bit longer, I do want to transition to a couple of other things, and that is, how do we move forward? This week, we've seen a lot of attention from protests, people that do represent the Black Lives Matters movement, but also outside of that movement, a lot of different ideas. And before I jump into any of those specific ones, because I do want to talk about some of these specific ones, and some of you are married to or know people that this would directly affect. But what are your thoughts, Tia, Tay, Marisol, Jocelyn? How how about we start with Tia if you have something, but what can we do as a society, or you as a woman of color, or me as a white man, or us as a church? We haven't talked about the church a lot,
Right.
because we're trying to make sure that we are appealing to a lot of people that are maybe not in the church.
Yeah.
But what can we do, Tia? How can we move forward and make this not a moment, but more of a movement?
Yeah. I mean, I think this is something I kind of talked to you about yesterday, Craig, about how it's really easy to, Tay mentioned this when he was saying that, like, he was passive about, he had a moment of passivity, you know, about like, this is nothing new, you know. I think what we have to do individually is to treat this like this, for one, that it shouldn't be happening, but that this may be the only, like, this is something new right now, and how we need to attack it. You know what I mean? And I think that I think for me personally, what I can do is for sure be open and honest about my experiences, you know, because I think that I'm around people often that don't look like me. Like, pretty much, I've mentioned to probably Marisol and Josie that, like, I've said a comment like, I need to get more Black friends. I have not. One or two, honestly. But even putting that aside, like, I honestly do really feel like the Lord did that for a reason, you know, in that I can be a person that puts myself in uncomfortable situations that I'm not used to, situations to where it's not about me. It's about hearing others. It's about loving and learning others. It's about, you know, for me, like, what does the Lord have to say about this, about reconciliation, about bringing people together, being a peacemaker. I think it's really important is just that the goal, what is the goal, right?
Yes.
Because, to talk about everything and, you know, but we have no goal, we have no aim. What's the point, right? And so, and I honestly think one of the goals needs to be that we do see each other as equal. You know, one of the goals needs to be that I don't just look at somebody and judge them off of their skin color, you know, and that honestly, that I can look at them and already come from a heart of compassion, you know, already come from a heart of, hey, I want to get to know you, any person, grocery store, wherever I am, you know. And so yeah, I think those are just a few ideas of big ideas.
No, that's very good. Thank you very much, Tia. And I do think God has put you where you're supposed to be for a reason, if none other for the relationship that you have with many of us in our church. So I'm thankful. I was telling Rachel, I mean, guys, I knew Tia, I don't know, right out of high school.
Again.
Well, real quick, right out of high school.
Yeah.
And she was a young girl, you know, she's out of high school. And just to see what you're learning, how you're growing. I mean, you've been so impressive to Rachel and I. And I'll be honest with you, when I first talked to you, I saw you as this young high schooler, you know, but now I'm like, well, no,
I felt it.
I'm sure you did, you know, and I guess that's ageism, but I see you as an equal now, you know, actually in many ways, superior as far as some of the ways that you look at things has been enlightening. So I'm very appreciative. So thank you very much. Jocelyn or Marisol, what can we do? How can we go forward? So we're not just like what Tia said was so good about having actual goals, having aims. Okay, yeah, we're upset about it. Yeah, we want to see a change, but what does that change actually look like? What is the actual aim? What are we doing? And I have a feeling that there's a lot of variables there, and there's a lot of targets, and we may disagree on those targets. In fact, I know from a conversation that Tay and I had that our targets may be not quite aligned a little bit, and that's okay. But for you, Marisol or Jocelyn, how do we move forward? What do we do?
I think as a community we all play like different roles in what, you know, we can do, should do, feel passionate about doing. You know, I feel like, you know, I feel like for me and the outside looking in, I feel like the goal, one of the goals is all these protesting, speaking up, things like that should happen, that are happening are for the next generation. As a mother, for the next generation, you know, um, so so Tia's children, so Tay's children, so our children, are not don't have to go through that. Anything even that shouldn't be normal that to our children, and nothing like that should be normal to our children. And I think for me, from the outside looking in or whatever, I feel like that would be, the goal that that one of the goals that I'm cheering for,
Right.
But also, you know, with the, police departments, different police departments, I feel like, they've said that that specific police officer already had things in his background that,
Yeah, I believe, just real quick, I think he had 12 different incident reports. I think it was 12.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, why would a department let somebody continue working in their department, hire them, continue keeping them, whatever? That's from up top. That's from management. That's from chiefs. I don't know, whoever is up top. That starts with them, and saying, why is he your employer? Why is he your employee? Why is he your employee? Where does the line hit? Is it 15? Is it 16? Is it 20? Or is it till he kills someone? Like, what's the line? And it's like, you know, I don't know, that's one thing that, my husband and I have been talking, like, what do we do? Do we send letters? I'm not a very, like, public person. You haven't posted anything on Facebook and stuff like that. But it's like, in a conversation with, my family, it's like, what can we do? Should we send letters? Like, what's, I feel like everyone has a different,
Part to play.
part to do, in this. And it's like, what's our part? What is God calling us to do? And it's like, is it to send letters? Like, because it starts up top. It starts in management. It starts in, I don't know, HR, chiefs, whatever. It's like, they're hiring these people. They're, maybe not doing mental, um evaluations. I don't know, or even, like, the reports are there. Like, what else do you need? It's 12 of them. How many more do you need? So I feel like there's a lot of different, you know there's a lot of different things that we all can do differently. We don't all have to do one thing.
Right. Well, no, and I appreciate that, because I think you're right. We do have different parts to play. I'm in education. I'm going to be around a lot. Well, this upcoming year, I've been around high schoolers for 16 years, but this upcoming year, I'm going to be around middle school children. And the school that I'm going to is almost, I mean, it's 84% Hispanic and, oh, I'm going to get it wrong, 10% Black and less than 3% white, I think, something like that. I don't know. But what, preparing those young minds and making sure that I'm not going to get into my job, but we all do have different parts to play. And it's interesting that you brought up policing. And I think that actually speaks very highly of you and your husband, because your husband is a police officer, to recognize that there is a problem
Right.
with what we saw. And that he had, I think it's right. It's Officer Chauvin, or the ex-police officer, who's now charged with second-degree murder. I think he had 12 other incident reports about him. And so, yeah, that's a question. So, Tay, to you, we've talked about policing a little bit, and you had some great recommendations for the police officer that we talked to earlier, who didn't want to be on the recording. And you talked about that community policing, about building relationships between police departments and the community, which I think is an excellent piece of advice. And I know there are some departments around the country that are doing that, but what are some other things that we can do to move forward from this incident?
Well, it's how do you change 400 years of history? You know, it's hard. And the deal is, it ain't just America, it's worldwide. You talk to people in the UK, They're getting treated the same way if they're black. South America, same way. The Aboriginals, same way. It's this worldwide stigma that if you
Right.
have darker skin, you're bad, you
Mhm.
know, or and it can be just based off of little things. Look at the dictionary. Black means evil. White means pure. Like it's a lot of things that. How do change the narrative? And I agree that it's got to start with the kids. I'm not saying that our generation is a lost cause. A lot of people just have their ways, and it just might be what it is. But if you teach the kids differently, hopefully things will be different. And it's crazy because I've had conversations with people before, and it's like I feel like even if you take a society of people ignorant to today's problems in the world, there's going to be a level of discrimination somewhere. Maybe the likes the ones of lighter skin are still going to flock together.
Mhm.
Maybe the tall ones are discriminating against the short, the strong against the weak, the big breasted against the small breasted, the fat against the skinny. I don't know. I think there's always going to be something that people are going to discriminate against because it's nature, you know,
Yeah.
and it's hard to break that, but the first step is to do what we're doing now. Have those uncomfortable conversations. I can talk to you all day. I mean, I can talk to Tia till we blue in the face. We go out and talk to a group of people, but we preach it to the choir. They know, you know. But if I can talk to somebody like you, somebody like Marisol, somebody like Jocelyn, y'all can reach an audience I can't because you don't look like the angry black dude just whining and complaining again.
Yeah.
So it goes beyond that. We need y'all to go out there and preach our gospel, you know, and tell our story and have people see it from your eyes to realize that, hey, well, hey, maybe there's a different way. Like Trump, oh my God, bro. If you just get up there and say, you know what, America, my fellow Americans, let's put differences aside. Black lives do matter. It would change so much, but he won't do it. He'll never do it. He
Yeah.
will never do it.
Yeah.
And that's sad. We need you to be a leader right now and just say it. Just do it. Why don't you want to say it? It's because it has black in front of it? You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to say, well, it's really all lives matter. No, it's not, because if all lives matters, you will be preaching this when the mother kills her kids. You know what I'm saying? When the father rapes his daughters and they're not black. You know what I'm saying? You will quit throwing the stigma on me when bringing up black on black crime, just stop and put your politics and your differences aside and understand what I'm saying
Well,
if you really feel it.
Tay, that might be a good place to do a slight transition just because it's such a common, I mean, I think I've been guilty of it. And I do, man, I do think
That all lives matter.
well, no. Well, they do obviously. And that's why I think Black lives do matter.
Yeah.
And I had no problem marching in that protest. A, it was peaceful. B, it was, I mean, police, mayor, citizens, everybody was together. It was unified.
Yeah.
I didn't have a sign that said Black Lives Matters, but I was standing right next to your sister that did. In fact, posted a picture of my daughter with you and your sister with the Black Lives Matter sign in it. So that's not what I wanted to get at, but it's just, Tay, okay, well, let's do this. So you brought up that people use as maybe a deflection or to bring up as another thing to say, hey, what about black on black crime?
Right.
What do you how can we chew gum and walk at the same time? Because I think you would agree with me that is worthy of discussion, maybe not right now, but worthy of attention. Black on black crime, white on white crime, whatever it may be, that's killing people out there. That it's or do you just see it as one giant deflection, like we shouldn't even talk about it at all because there's something else that's more important right now?
I feel like at the moment,
Right.
address the topic at hand.
Yeah.
When 9/11 happened, you just start talking about all buildings.
Sure.
When Las Vegas shooter happened, you just start talking about Oklahoma. When Oklahoma City bombers happened, you just start talking about Seattle. What about them? What about that? You talking about what's going on right now. And right now, this is the issue.
Right.
If they came and said, you know what, Hispanic lives matter, you want to hear me say, no, you're right, they matter. Especially if they're going through something serious.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just what it is. I shouldn't have to pick and choose which one I want to advocate for. You know what I'm saying? But if I do, and I advocate for the one that hits more dear to me, then that's what I want to do. I
Sure.
want to talk about my aunt died from breast cancer. If I want to go and do a march for breast cancer, don't make me feel bad because I'm not talking about colon cancer. I'm not talking about that shit right now. Sure, it's a problem.
Yeah.
It needs to be addressed. But right now, I'm talking about this. So if you want to talk about this and make a change, then let's talk about this and make a change. And then if you want to do your movement, we'll do that separately. But it doesn't have to be at the expense of my movement.
Right. Okay. So no, I hear you. So maybe, and I think, see, this is why we have these conversations, right? Because when I look at some statistics and I look at some data and I look at how many people, for example, this past weekend was the worst day of murder in the city of Chicago in its history ever.
Right.
I mean, it's a terrible, terrible thing. And, or when you look at the riots, right? And obviously there have been more peaceful protests. I don't want to get into a distraction about riots. I'm not saying that. But when you have a guy like David Dorn, David Darn, I think I may be saying his name wrong, but that ex-police officer who was killed defending his friend's store. And you look at that stuff, and from my perspective, and I'm not somebody that's trying to suppress a movement. I just see death, and I see all of these things, and it makes me, I'm angry at all of it. When I saw the officer on the neck of George Floyd, I'm sitting here going through the scenario like, okay, if I was there, I think I would tackle that police officer, but he's strapped with a gun. So I would try to talk to 3 or 4 people and we all do it together. Like I'm sitting here trying to go through like, it made me so mad. But then I saw the guy, that old police officer, I don't know if anybody's seen it because it's not being circulated as much, but he's sitting there lying on the street, bleeding out with his cell phone in his hand. This 70, I think he's like 70 years old, something like that. Black, by the way, ex-police officer who was gunned down just because he was protecting a store. And I'm not saying, like, I don't look at that and say, okay, well, Black Lives Matter is ridiculous or this movement, but it's like all I see is wrong. And I see, and I'm learning that even though that may be true, by me mentioning it, it seems like a deflection. And I get that.
See, I understand something. When people bring up, you know, the black on black crime or black cops getting killed and things like that, you know, look, we know it's a problem too. There's been plenty of marches against crime in our communities. Yeah. Nobody sheds light on those. Nobody knows that we do that. Nobody, like here in Killeen, a kid got killed here. We had a whole movement called Stop the Violence. Does the world know? No.
Right.
You know, but we do it all the time. But this is different. We're talking about, you know, the people that are supposed to protect and serve. Like, damn, you know, it's a little bit of a different situation. Gotcha. You know, we get it. You know that there's death everywhere, and you want to hit on death everywhere. Trust me, Black people we know. You know, but when it's brought up, when we're talking about what we're talking about, it's like you're gonna piss us off even more. And then what's going to end up happening, you're going to have arguments, you're going to have more fighting, you're going to have more disagreements, and then you might have more people going out shooting other cops because they're tired. Is that an excuse? Nah, it's that person's fault. You're the despicable person for doing it. But, you know, people are tired, and we don't want to be told, hey, well, we got to worry about everybody. No, we worry about us right now because at the end of the day, everybody ain't dying because they look like me. I'm dying because I look like me.
Right.
And as soon as everybody understand, if the world just came together and said Black Lives Matter and just got on board, I trust me, a lot of stuff would die down. There's still gonna be some idiots in the world. I get it. I'm telling you, man, a lot of the riots, a lot of the looting, a lot of stuff would be so much more different. And we would probably more than likely reciprocate the same thing with All Lives Matter, with Hispanic Lives Matter, with Blue Lives Matter. Mm-hmm. But why should we care about y'all if you don't care about us? And that's how a lot of people feel. And it's not right, but that's what it is.
Well, and I think it's something that I've been learning, right? Because I thought I was doing the correct thing, you know, because I went to North Garland. It was very diverse, and I have no prejudice against people because the way that I was I have a love for people that comes from Jesus, and that where I treat people the same way, regardless of how much money they make or what color their skin is. But what I have come to find out through all of this is I have to speak out for, for my brothers and sisters who are Black, and explain that that they're not choosing, they're not saying Black lives matter more than anything else. They're just saying we need to explain to people that okay, sorry. We're not saying choose either or. We're saying listen to what they're saying, listen to what they're saying, listen to their hurts. Because the reason that I feel like a lot of the reason that they're acting out this way is because nobody's listening, or they're choosing to say blue lives matter, all lives matter. And then it does take away from what their hurt, their pain, and those people who don't know how to react, they act out in violence, they act out by lashing out. But what are we doing? What are we doing right now to tell our brothers and sisters who think I have to stand up for the blue lives, I have to stand up for all lives because I follow Jesus? And we're not saying that. They're not saying that. They're just saying, listen to what I have to say because we need change. And I think we need to use this time, us who are lighter skinned, to speak for our brothers and sisters and say that's what's going on, because they're not listening. There's a lot of people not listening, and a lot of people who are saying all lives matters because we're Christian, blue lives matters because we have people who serve, and they are good people, and they are. And I'm not saying that because Carla,
wrong.
I know a lot of good people, a lot of good cops who've treated me nicely, treated other people of color nicely. So they're not saying that, and I'm not saying that. We're just saying, listen to what they have to say, and that's something that I've had to learn. And it took me a lot of reading and a lot of praying and a lot of just time with God to try to figure out what I could do, because for my students, that's what I can do,
Right.
I mean, Craig, we talked about this, and I know you don't say those things, or in the past you haven't said those things to discount how someone's feeling or discount what's actually going on in the world. You don't bring up stats or want to bring up certain things just to shut me up or shut me down. You do not do that,
Right.
And I mean, I'm sure there are people who say that and do, but I think that, and I said this to you, that even with you saying I do acknowledge, that there's injustice, and I do acknowledge that there's racial injustice, even with you saying that, I think I told you that I still inside feel like a way where it's just like, can we leave the stats? You know what I mean? Hear me. And I think that's something that you showed me was just that not everybody, first off, that it's coming from a different perspective, because you are white and you're a male, and you don't have experience being a Black person, right?
Correct.
Just listening to you and talking to you has helped me understand, for one, that you really truly do not see racial inequality. And I don't know why I've never saw you like that, but I've never saw you treat me any differently. But the way your heart is and the way you think, I mean, I know I even have some biases, honestly. And I don't know, I just wanted to say that I know that when you say those things, you're not coming from a place of I just need to stop you right there because I have the numbers.
Just to clarify, hold on real quick, Tay, just real fast. You said something, but I just want to make sure, because I think you said something, but you meant something else. You said, I don't see racial inequalities, or you mean to say, I don't see, what were you saying?
That you don't see people of color as lesser than, that you don't see people that look different than you don't treat them unequally. You literally
Right. So when I say I'm not racist, that maybe it's honest. But here's the problem: you can't say that, right, Tay? Because everybody
Yeah,
says that when they really are like, "Well, I'm not racist,"
and that's where I was
but
about to go with. That's
no, I
exactly
know.
where I was
Listen,
about to
I
go with.
know. I. That's why I didn't say it. That's why I didn't say
there's
it.
something, honestly, Craig and I talk to that I really like. I really do believe what you say when you say that. You know what I mean? And
I
even
know.
people that go to our church, I really do believe that when you say it. You know?
See,
I know you. I
but
know you do. But
but
go
Tia,
ahead, Tay. Go ahead, Tay.
but Tia, you gotta understand something, Tia, as well. You know Craig. A lot of people don't.
Yeah.
When I first had a talk with Craig, I was like looking like normally when somebody makes a point and they have a but at the end of it, everything before that doesn't mean
That
anything
butt,
anymore.
Craig.
You
I
know what I'm saying?
know. I know.
Doesn't mean anything else anymore. You know what I'm saying? This is not an attack on Craig. This is just
Yeah.
No,
you
it's
know
true. It's true.
everybody when it comes to All Lives Matters. It's like if I don't know you and you say, look, I believe in the Black Lives Matter movement. I believe in this, that, and the third. But when it comes to like, all right, you know what? That to me sounds like I'm not racist, but I
Yeah.
don't want to hear what you got to say anymore.
Yeah.
So
It's
it's like
true.
you got to take that part out of it and just address the topic at hand because now you're going to look like that white guy to all them black people that you're trying to reach.
Right.
They ain't trying to hear you anymore.
Right.
That's true. No, and I'm telling you, that's been the big lesson. And it sounds like Marisol kind of having that same sort of, well, I'm not going to speak for you, Marisol, but it sounded like kind of that same sort of, I don't want to say awakening because people use that and the whole woke thing. I don't want to say that, but just that sort of empathy to be like, okay, I don't understand what you're coming from. I need to listen. And whatever I may think I understand, no, it's please educate me on you.
Mhm.
Now, there is a mountain that or a hill that I will die on though. And I have not come around to this. And that is, Tay, you said something very interesting. You said that, Tia knows me. And Tay, I'm maybe it's still kind of a weird way to think, but Tay, just because you're a black male, that may mean that it definitely means that you have experienced life differently than me. I have no problem admitting that. But I'm not going to put you in a box that's in my brain that's called black male.
Yeah.
Like I refuse to do that just because I don't know you. I don't know if you fit that box. Now, you may have experiences that are shared experiences with other Black Americans, specifically other Black men. And I'm not diminishing that. But I think we would all, and I do mean this, this is kind of like my thing. I think we would all in our world be so much better if we could somehow figure out a way to get away from these identifiers. And that's why I kind of started off, and it may have seemed like a pointless discussion, but when we talk about African American, Black American, Brown American, White American, Latino American, Caucasian American, I'll be really honest with y'all, I hate all of it with a passion. I don't like any of it. I think it's not helpful. There's a clip that's going around, and I know you've heard it, and it's not helpful, I know, but there's some truth behind it. Somebody was asking somebody that was a prominent person and says, how do we get rid of racism? And he's like, well, we stop talking about it. Now, obviously, I'm not saying we need to stop talking about it, but there is this notion that every time I look at Tay and say, Tay's a black man, and that's how I see Tay first. That's a problem. That's a serious problem, in my opinion. And I could be wrong about this.
Well, see, with me, I'd be proud if you see me as a black man. That doesn't bother me. It's like if I see. Sometimes I talk about people, and sometimes I put a description like, yeah, I got a white friend that says, just because it helps paint the picture of what I'm trying to say. Sometimes
Sure.
the story that I'm telling, so people understand like he black and they said that, and it's not even anything like racial related. It's just something funny. It's nothing wrong with acknowledging diversity. There's nothing
Sure.
wrong with saying that my Asian friend, my black friend, my Hispanic, and that's not the problem. At the end of the day, is how do we see past that and still say that it's still a person, we're still equal?
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people use that colorism and make it an evil. I get it, but to me, that's not something that needs to get away with it. We need to be proud of being a diverse world that can all see each other the same way.
And let me
That would be
clarify.
much more beautiful than getting rid of color. I'm sorry.
No. Yeah. And to specify, if we use color no, specifically only as an adjective, that's a
Yes.
blue car, that's a white plane, that's a black band. That's not what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, I feel like race is so shoved into us. I mean, it's just everywhere. It's everything goes back to this, to where it's hard to use a descriptor. Like if I say, well, Tia is a black friend of mine, it's hard to say that just to say, well, no, that just means she has darker skin than me. That's all that
Right.
that means.
Right.
Unfortunately, that's not what it means anymore. And so
Right.
that's my problem with the descriptor. I've no God made, listen, and I had said this in the last thing. I didn't say this to you, Tay, but Jocelyn, Marisol, Tay, Tia, look at all of our skin tone. Not one of us has the same. And that is freaking awesome, because that's how God made it. Like he wanted diversity. That's a beautiful thing. So I'm not somebody to say like, hey, we just all need to be the same color. It would make life easier, but it's that it cannot be an adjective anymore, like tall or short or lighter or like a friend said, like yellow boned or red bone or whatever, all of these terms that we throw around. It's not just these descriptors anymore. There's things that are attached with them. And that's my problem, is that I don't want to see those attachments, but I don't know if they're escapable anymore. I don't know if they are. And maybe I just need to tell myself, Craig, we don't live in that world anymore, to where now if you do say white or black, there are other things that we're imparting in this, that when I say a black friend, that means he's been oppressed. That means he's gone through struggles. And I'm okay with that. I just don't like it. It doesn't mean that I don't recognize it. I just don't like it. It pisses me off is what it does, because I don't want Tia to be my black friend.
Yeah.
She's my sister.
Yeah.
She's not my black, you know what I mean?
And now
it's
and there,
annoying.
there's things that they may subscribe to me that I may not even be a part of. And I
yes.
and I get what you're saying.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, I get that.
So, and here's and it's just a different perspective, because honestly, the way our like brains work since we're young, and this goes back to what we've all been saying, like we need to be really, really talking to our children and creating the framework of loving others, and that they see other people that does not look like them.
Yes.
We have, when we're born, we start to have schemas, right? And we see a chair, and then we see a different kind of chair, and then we see another kind of chair. We all know, we start to realize, oh, there's different kinds of chairs. There's beanbag chairs, there's, all these things. The same thing, I believe, works when we see different kinds of people.
Right.
I have been in the life of a white child for the past 4 years. I was his teacher, then I was his nanny, now I was teacher again, and now I just hang out with him because he's awesome. When he was 2, his grandmother told me that like she was flipping through magazines, and he just saw there was like black women in the magazines. He was like, oh, Tia, like, not literally is what he was doing. He's 2 years old. He's just seeing me as he sees me, same brown skin tone, and is just like, okay, every girl that kind of looks like her is Tia. Obviously, like, he's still learning and everything. But now to this day, he's almost 6, and I've never even heard him like, we talk about color, we talk about skin tones, we talk about all of these things. The other day, he called me his family. You know what I mean? You're my family. And we were talking about how we look different. He's like, but you're still my family. And I think that transcends beyond just the fact that as adults, I'm honestly, like, we can think of a person of a specific racial group, cultural group, skin tone, and we have different things that we are like, oh, then he probably does this. He probably does this. And sometimes it's accurate, literally. I mean, let's just be honest, sometimes it's accurate. Yeah. Like, I can probably name a couple movies, Tay, that you've seen, and I would assume that you probably already seen them.
I've seen them all.
Honestly, however, though, I do think that can get very dangerous. And I just want to give us a perspective in a sense of like, our brains from a small age work in that way, and we need to be responsible as the adults, to handle it.
You know what's funny though?
What?
And we keep talking about the youth and everything. Y'all are in a position. Everybody in this chat except me, y'all are all or attempting to be soon. I believe one of them said that she's in school to be a teacher. To be in that position to be around the kids like half of the day if not more, you know what I'm saying? So I guess my question is, for you guys, is it hard for y'all to talk to kids, or do you feel like there's certain things that you got to sugarcoat or not say in fear of parents' intervention or being mad that you can't reach the children to try to make a difference?
Hmm. That's a good.
Because I know some people like, don't teach my child or don't tell my kid that and blah, blah, blah. And I get it. I understand, you know, but at the end of the day, parents need to understand, like, hey, y'all are the parents when we ain't there. You know, from the time we dropped them off at 7 o'clock in the morning to 3, 4 in the evening, it was y'all. So if anybody has a big impact, it's a lot of it is y'all.
Mm.
Yeah.
So how do y'all cope or deal with trying to make a difference in a world that's so sensitive about everything that's being said or
Man,
done?
that is a great
Yeah.
question. I mean, like and I will say that I have felt like my hands are tied. In one sense, in a positive way, I'm a Christian. I can't assume all my students are Christian. So I would never go into a classroom, open up the Bible and say, you need to listen to this. However, my students all, remember I teach high school. I've taught high school for 16 years. All my students knew I was a pastor, all of them.
Mm.
I didn't shove anything down their throat, but they all knew when I introduced myself. I was like, yeah, I'm a teacher. I'm also a pastor at this church. And there were kids from our church that were at our school. So that kind of spread, right? So, but I can't go really into that. And so to see these kids struggling with basic identity, and that could be associated with race, but to me, there's a much larger problem, and it's just a basic problem with sin. And Tay, I know you grew up in the church, and we'll talk about that maybe at another time, because we're coming to the close of our time here. But to talk about that, and to be really frank with you, Tay, I feel like I can't talk about politics, and I don't mean specific politics, like, hey, you should vote for Bernie or not vote for Biden. That's not what I mean. But just to talk about these big concepts, it's tough to do even that, because there's such a stigma. You know, I mean, listen, most of my students of color have hated Trump from day one. I mean, it's just assumed. You know, they just hate Trump, and that's fine. And I don't defend we don't get into that. I taught math. I didn't teach politics, but I'm just giving you an example to where it's tough to talk to a kid about what they're really going to face in life. And we do it a little bit and the best I can. I mean, I try to talk about identity. I try to talk about self-respect. I try to talk about how they can, how their reputation, if it's sullied once, it's hard to regain. I try to talk about all these things, but I as educators, we're in a losing battle, because even though we may be with them 7 hours a day, we're not the music that they're putting in their ear. We're not the shows that they're watching.
Yeah.
We're not the things that they're really interested in. And so just like kids want to ignore their parents when they're at home, they want to ignore their teachers when they're in school. And so it's very difficult to try to talk about truth and to talk about things of value. And I do. And I've had students in the past say, hey, you know, I really learned a lot, but that's a few. You know, the most of them, I don't know if they're getting it, because most of us probably can attest. We heard a lot, but until we got in that world and actually met reality, it was all words. So
Man, have you ever thought of like alternative ways? Not so much
Sure.
as you, because one, you're a principal, and then you taught math. Math is just universal. But
Right.
Tia, what was your specialty in school? And same question applies for Jocelyn and Marisol. Marisol, I believe you said you're in school to become a teacher, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So
I'm not in the
so what?
education field.
You're not?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was mistaken.
Yeah.
All right. So Tia, what do you teach?
I teach early preschool. So it's like I'm with the 3s, the 4s, and the 5s. And I'm currently in school to
So you have pretty much free reign to kind of teach and incorporate whatever you want.
pretty
All right.
much. It's helpful. That really, honestly, the age that I have is really, really helpful.
Right. And Marisol, what about you?
I'm going to school to be a middle school math teacher. So yes, I love middle schoolers. I feel like they have a bad rep. They just they're disregarded a lot of the time just because they don't always listen. And I feel like I have the heart and the compassion to listen and to hopefully make a difference.
Right.
But I do teach the youth right now at my church, and they come from all sorts of backgrounds. We have Hispanics, we have Blacks, we have whites. You know, we've had a
Right.
lot of different backgrounds, all socioeconomic. You know, and so we have spoken, and a lot of I have a really good relationship with a lot of the parents for my girls. And a lot of times I've spoken to them, you know, and I have built that relationship where they trust me with their kids, and they trust in who I am and my character, and they don't really question what I say, what I tell the kids. And I try to make what I tell the kids, my girls, to be Christ-centered, first of all, but also the right thing with what's going on in the world. And I listen to my girls, to my kids, primarily. And so I haven't encountered yet a parent that has come to me and said, I don't want you teaching my kid this, except for some other things that I will not mention right now, but none of them have been regarding race, you know, or
Right.
or anything like that. So I don't know. Maybe
I,
once
I guess
What I
Well,
oh,
I guess my question is more in lines because of like what you said. You can talk to a whole lot of people, but that's kind of in a type of organization where y'all come to a common ground. And this is something an outreach to the youth type deal. I guess I'm asking in regards to the everyday teacher who is in school with these kids every day, for hours. How do we get to incorporate things without sensitive parents or people saying, well, this ain't right. Like if you're an art teacher, can you start teaching different types of music, different types of paintings, incorporates like, hey, this is a black artist, this is a white artist, so that they
Yes.
can see their diversity.
Yes.
So it's hard to do with math. It's very
Yeah.
hard to do with math because it's universal. But if you're doing if you're an English teacher, can you do stuff from like different novels from different people or different histories, different cultures, so everybody can get a taste and
Yes.
understand that everything's, even if you just have a homeroom class, you can do something, whatever, but
Yes.
some kind of way that you can outreach the kids and still be part of the curriculum.
And I will say, Tay, that there is, I mean, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of teachers across the country, but I can
Right.
say that from the teachers that I know, for example, one art teacher specifically, that yes, they try to look at art globally, and they try to look at different regions and different times and get people involved. There's a friend of mine that's an English teacher that we have butted heads a lot with politics, but I know that he's done a great job of making sure these kids are reading from authors from different races, ethnicities, time periods, and really letting the kids see people like them that are authors and speak to their life experiences. So yeah, I think there's a way to do it, but I also know that there's teachers that don't do it at all. So it's really, unfortunately, some of us, our hands are tied because of the subject we're teaching, and there's so much pressure as far as state accountability and testing. But there are other places where they have a little bit more freedom. Some teachers are using it, but
Yeah.
some teachers are not. But I mean, I'm very thankful. I'm the middle school I'm going to. I mean, you talk about diversity. I'll have three other principals. The head principal is a black woman. Assistant principal is a black woman, and the other assistant principal is a Hispanic woman. Right now, I'm the only man. I'm the only white administrator. And to me, I don't give a rip one way or the other. But what's cool is that I know that my head principal has made it a point to make sure that kids can express themselves and can learn in all of these different ways in different cultures. In fact, she's trying to right now provide a space where kids, I mean, listen, we get to be online and do this. We get to go to protests. We get to do all this stuff, but what are the kids doing? So she's trying to provide a place for where the kids can do this, so they can vent their frustration, so they can tell the world what they're thinking. And that to be around somebody that is a head principal that has that sort of mind, that's rare, but it's awesome and it's productive. And so I don't know if there's an easy answer to your question, Tay, but I can tell you that there are people that are being intentional But there's a lot of people that aren't. And the people that aren't, it's not that they're racist or closed-minded. They don't know any other way.
Right.
They haven't been challenged to think outside. I know I haven't until probably in the last 5 or 6 years been to purposely think outside of their comfort zone.
Right.
So maybe that's something we should be thinking about moving forward. What can we do to intentionally expose our children to different people, different cultures, different things, all of these things? It's a good idea.
And I will say just real quickly that I do, like I said, I guess I'm not so restricted to certain rules because it's early childhood.
Right.
However, I am the teacher that gets very involved with the family. Like I'm involved with the family. I'm going to the soccer games. I'm going to all of these things, you know, and knowing that I'm an influence in their child's life, but also wanting to get to know the family too. So I think for those who are in a place where they can do more, because I don't know in high school if you can do that, you know, but I do intentionally, purposefully.
Well, you know what, Tia, what you just said actually relates to what something Tay said a long time ago when he was talking to Jocelyn. And it's true. It's community policing and community teaching.
Right.
And the problem is why can't police officers? I think a lot of police officers want to be in the community.
Right.
Why don't they? Well, Jocelyn, what did your husband say? It's a lack of resources.
Right.
Listen, I would love to be at all of my kids' soccer games. As a high school teacher, you got kids playing soccer, football, baseball, band, orchestra, art shows. And I mean, you've got all this stuff. And it's like, you have no time for your family because you've got 150 kids. And you're like, okay, how do I, all right, I'm going to try to go to this game. I'm going to try to do this. So the question I think for many of us is, how do we do this with limited resources? And it's very tough. But Tia, you said something that relates to something Jocelyn said that relates to something Tay said, and that is intentionally being involved in community.
Right.
And Marisol, you've done that at your church with great success. You said parents are listening to you because they trust you.
Yeah.
Why? Because you are involved with their kids. So I guess maybe that's something that we can all agree on, that whatever walks of life we're doing, being intentional, getting out of our comfort zone, talking to people that don't look like us, don't sound like us, aren't from the same place as we are, even though it's not comfortable. And even though we may screw up a lot. Tay, you said a lot of people, when they talk to you, they all of a sudden try to start talking like you. And believe it or not, that may be disrespectful, but that's actually a human coping mechanism to where we try to actually, it's a bonding thing. It's actually, even though it may sound disrespectful, and some people maybe are, like if they're trying to play music that whatever, that can be disrespectful, but some people change the way that they talk just because they're trying to adapt.
Yeah.
You know? So I'm rambling, but the whole point is that I think we can be more intentional.
Yeah.
I think if maybe that's lesson number 2. Lesson number 1, listen to what people have to say. Even if they don't fit your facts and figures, it's real to them.
Yeah.
So we need to listen. And maybe the second huge lesson is, a week ago, I didn't know Tay. I don't know Jocelyn and Marisol very well, but making a point to meet, making a point to intersect, making a point to have that sort of community. I don't know. We've got about 10 minutes left, so I'll leave that to you guys. How do we take that? Tay, you asked a question about education, but it's bigger than that, right? How can you do that? What can you do in your world? Or are you doing enough having this conversation?
So what I try to do is something, I want to start a kind of like a program here in my community to where it's more helpful for predominantly single mothers.
Yeah.
I want to start up a program that teaches boys how to be men. They can, me and a group of guys, we get together, and whatever trades we have to get, it takes a village, right? So let's get all the trades that we know. We can teach them how to work with electronics, teach them how to fix cars, teach them how to cut grass, teach them how to fight, teach them whatever things that. And I'm not saying that their mothers couldn't teach them, but just certain things that they could be around a positive Black man to understand that, hey, I can be this, I can do this. I don't have to dribble a ball. I don't have to, try to be a rapper or whatever. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with any of those things, but there's something outside of that. And with that, what it does is it instills a couple of things. One, discipline. If we're in there and their mom could drop them off with us, go do what she do, have fun with the girls, get her hair done, or whatever. But if they start messing up at school or acting out, hey, you better stop. I'm gonna go call Tay on you. Tay will come straighten you out. We can get in good with the community and the police. Be like, hey, we got this program. If somebody calls a cop on such and such, give us a call and we'll come out and straighten them out before y'all just haul them off to jail. Unless they did something, obviously, that warrants them to go to jail. But even then, still give us a call so that everybody knows that, hey, we can vouch for these kids. They don't just go to juvie and start getting records at early ages, because we have something here that's going to straighten them out. And that's what I want to do in my community, to try to cut, the stereotype that black men and black boys are going to grow up to be such and such and be a product of a criminal society or looked at a certain way.
Man, I love it. I listen, black kids, white kids, all of these kids, they need men in their life.
Yeah.
It's a fact. And it's a fact that doesn't fit very well into political correctness circles right now, but it's a fact. We need women in our lives. We need men in our lives. God made two genders for a reason.
Yeah.
And I can speak from, my mom was divorced many times and stepdads and stuff. I need strong male figures. I need them. So that a concept, Tay, I don't know. I don't know what I can do to help. Maybe nothing, but I say run with it. I think that's an amazing idea. I encourage you, pray for you. I'll donate money, whatever. I love it. I think that's great. Let's do it. Anybody else? What are some things? What can we do?
I can't really speak on a educational, perspective, but I think, I'm not going to tell anybody how to parent their kid, but I think it's very important to, be transparent with your kid and teach them at a very young age, that people are different and, we're, a God-centered household, but it's like, that God does make everyone different, not less or more or anything like that, but different, and not to teach respect and self-value and value others and respect others and things like that, where
Say hi.
Hi, Tay's wife.
Hi.
Say hi.
Thank you for letting him talk to us. We really appreciate it.
Yes.
Hold on. Let me. Now she can hear you.
Oh, hi.
We were saying thank you for letting Tay talk to us. We really appreciate it. We're almost done. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jocelyn.
Yeah, but just where it should start in the household. It should start in the household. It should start. I don't remember if it was Tia. It's like, how do you, or I don't remember who it was, but it's like, what do you say around your kids? How do you talk about people around your kids? It's like they learn what they see, they mimic what they learn, and it's like, where, sometimes it's before they even go to school that they see, oh, okay, well, this is this and that's that, before the age of 4, like, how old do they have to be before they know what's what or what's not, like, how old do they have to be? I think as as a parent, that's very important to me, where it's like, where I'm very transparent. I can't tell other people how to be with their kids, but it's like, I'm a very transparent parent, and where it's like, it's, this is the world and this is what I present to them, not a something fake where it's like, oh, okay, you're never gonna,
right.
I don't know, but I feel like it starts at home.
No, absolutely. And being honest and transparent, that's huge. That's absolutely huge. We're coming up on 3 hours, and Tia, we forgot to do something. Everybody needs to, she's going to make a thumbnail for all of us. So give yourself 5 seconds, and you've got your black SpaceX, and then you've got the this on. Now I feel like I'm really lacking. Yeah, I need to step up my game for sure.
Hey,
but
hey, real quick, I want to say something to Jocelyn.
Yeah.
You are kind of in a position, the wife of a cop, right? She sit there?
Yes.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. Take it for what it's worth. Do with the information as you see. But just like the president has the first lady, y'all can impact the community like the Cops Wives Club. Go out in the community to do things so that people know that, hey, you know, these are all the wives of cops and yada yada yada, and they're here to help us and make them, I don't say make them, but it could encourage them to think differently as well. Just get together, and just like in the military, we have like a FRG. It's the Family Readiness Group. We have all the wives or the husbands of military personnel who will get together and do things for other families or things like that. Y'all can definitely do that in the community and be seen and give a different light on the police, because it's got to be hard on you to advocate against social injustice, but then at the same time defend your husband.
Right.
It's kind of sometimes you're being torn in two different directions. Now, trust me, I get it. But you can also help change that narrative by being his rock.
Yeah.
Thank
When
you.
he couldn't, because he has the resources are limited, but yours are unlimited if y'all band together.
Yeah. Thank
That's
you,
all.
Tay.
That's a good word. In fact, it's so good. We're going to end on that because that's really good. I just want to say thank you to Tia. Without her, none of this would even happen. So thank you, Tia. Thank you, Marisol, for exposing your heart and your love. And Jocelyn, what a unique perspective you have. And I really appreciate you. And tell your husband again, just thank you so much. And Tay, again, as I said before, it stinks that you've lost friends. I know you and I disagree, and we did not talk about some of the big things we disagree with, and that's okay.
We will.
And we will. No, listen, man, I ain't afraid of it. But we've gained. I feel like I've gained a friend, and so yeah. So thank you all very much. We are all going to absolutely take Tay up on his offer to show us around SpaceX.
Come on down.
So let's be ready for that. But
We
thank
got
you
free
guys very
sodas and
much.
ice cream.
And Craig, thank you so much also, Craig, for
Yeah.
moderating and always.
Yeah, of course. Thank
Yeah.
you. So we'll when Tia will get the link and she'll send it to us. People need to know that they can have these conversations too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the point. We don't know everything. I don't represent 240 million white people. I don't. Not even close. But maybe somebody else can say, hey, you know what? I can do this. So let's be encouraged and do that. Thank you guys very much. Anybody else? Last things before we go?
Yeah, everybody feel free to add me. We can talk about whatever, whenever.
Awesome.
Yes, we all need to be friends on social media. Yes, good word, Tate. Thank you very much, man. His last name, by the way, is Beasley. Beasley.
Got it.
Beasley.
In The Office, Pam Beasley.
That's right.
Is there a relation or?
Man, it's funny. There's so many Beasleys add me on Facebook. I'm like, there's many Beasleys in the world right now.
Hey, Tate, do you and your wife ever watch The Office?
No, she likes to watch all the ratchet TV shows.
Ah,
And I catch myself watching them with her. But she's anything reality TV, she's on it. So
Okay. All right. Well, thank you again, guys. Hopefully we'll chat again. And you know what? Maybe not like this, but maybe we'll just call each other on the phone. Tay and I have done that. Tia, you and I did that today. So much love, respect you guys. Yeah. Y'all have a good evening.
bye.
all right.
Bye.
Godspeed, everybody.
Bye, guys.